Okay, so today's video lesson is going to hopefully be a review, but we are going to be going over the divisions of an inch and what that means. And I'll be showing you a quick little activity. So what you need for this is a sheet of paper and some type of pen or pencil. I will be using my Sharpie marker here on this paper to show you as we go. So I'll give you guys just a few seconds. I'll pause, stop the video, go get those supplies, and then come back. All right, now that my pause effect is done, we're going to take this sheet of paper here. So now, I want to point out a couple of things that are going to be important for us, especially when we get to the drafting component of the class. Is as you look at this, if your paper is oriented like this, that is called landscape. If it is oriented like this, that is called portrait. So we always want to know what portrait is and what landscape is when we're actually talking about our paper and using our different paper that we'll be using. So the first thing I'm going to have you do is fold along the length, fold this in half. So I just go and I'll match end to end, come over here, pinch the one corner, and then just kind of make a nice little fold on that so that you've got a nice crease going through. Now, usually when you're in the classroom and I'm showing this, we'll just bring one end over to the end, and then we use the table and we kind of put a crease mark in there. So you have a nice crease and these ends line up with each other. So now unfold your paper. So, and you will see the crease line. Now the first thing I want you to do is we're going to take our marker and we're going to basically draw a crease line about 3/4 of that length. So let me show you here. So I'm going to use my marker here and I'm just going to draw my line right there on the crease, about 3/4 of the paper. So you'll see that's 3/4 of the paper as far as the length. Now, here's how we're going to say this. So we have split that paper in half. So this tick mark, we're going to call that a tick mark, and that tick mark is 1/2. Now, if you were in class with me, we'd talk a little bit about units here. So I'd say, well, what is the unit of this? So I've got one sheet of paper here, I fold it, and now I have half. What's the unit? In this case, it's half a sheet of paper. So the inch isn't any different. So we're kind of using this as a metaphor to represent our inch as we divide the inch up into its basic fractions. So in this case, we have half a unit or half a sheet of paper. We kind of have to pay attention to our units as we go through. So this is half of a sheet of paper. When we're reading our tape measure or our scale, it'll be 1/2 inch. So go ahead and fold that sheet of paper back over like this. Now we're going to fold that half sheet in half again. So, and line up the two ends, get you a nice crease over there. So now I have basically 1/4. This size here represents 1/4 of a sheet. So I'm going to unfold it again over those. And on each of those crease marks, I'm going to, about half of the length of the crease, I'm going to draw 2 more tick marks. I'm going to make sure that they're the same length. And I want those to be about half of the sheet of paper here. So right here, 2 more tick marks. So while you're doing that, I'm going to kind of also be doing this up on the board just so you can kind of follow along as I go. So, and we will make sure that we're doing this. So here, I'm going to say this is my inch. So we've already taken about 3/4 of that sheet of paper and we drew and we folded it in half. This was our 1/2 inch mark. So the length of that tick mark was about 3/4 the total width. Then we folded it in half again, and we determined that half of 1/2 was the quarters. So I'm gonna do this. Now, I have 1/4 and I have 3/4. We have to kind of decide, well, what's what. Remember, this is where kind of like your number line is. We start out at 0, and this first tick mark is 1/4. The second tick mark is 2/4. 3/4. We say, we know this is 1, or we can also say that that is 4/4 or 4/4. So that it reduces to 1. So here we can say that's 2/4 or 2/4, but it reduces to 1/2. So we also always want to reduce as well. So that right now, so you should have your sheet of paper, and you should have your 1/4, 1/2, and 3/4 tick mark that looks exactly like this. So let's go ahead, fold that sheet of paper back over again. So we've got a representation here of a 1/4 sheet of paper. And once more, we will fold that 1/4 into 1/2. 1/2 of 1/4. This is going to be our 1/8. So get you a nice crease along there. So at this point, maybe you might even want to go ahead and, if you can, kind of get it, fold it back over on itself, so you got the crease lines kind of working both ways. So we got a good crease line. All right. And again, we open this up. Now where each of those crease marks are, now I'm going to kind of come, and about half of the length of the 1/4, I'm going to do the same here. So just hold on a second. Let me do this for you, and then you'll see what I mean. So again, I'm being very specific with the lengths of these tick marks. So if we learn how to read these, a lot of our measuring tools have various length tick marks, and it is important. So now, all right, so there you go. So you can see here, I've got these now. All of these are about half of the size of this one. So draw those. You want them all to be the same length. So on each of those crease marks. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go back up here to our board. So I'm going to make each of these, again, that's halfway between each of our divisions so far. And this is what we call the 1/8 scale, the 1/8 scale. So again, starting out at our 0, this becomes 1/8. The next tick mark is 2/8, then 3/8. The next one is 4/8. Again, we don't keep it at 4/8. It gets reduced to, we say, 1/2. 5/8, 6/8, which reduces to 3/4. 7/8, and then 8/8, which of course reduces to 1. So, and that is what we refer to as our 1/8 scale. So you can go ahead and write those on your paper as well. So you should add the 1/8, the 3/8, the 5/8, and the 7/8 on each of those. So let's take a look. At this point, your paper should look something like this. We have 8 divisions of an inch. 8 divisions of an inch. Let's go ahead and let's fold this paper back over on itself here. And one more time, I'm going to take, this one's going to be a little bit tougher. I got to go down onto the table to fold this one over. We're going to fold that in half one more time. If you're good at your multiplication of fractions, if you remember, half of 1/8 is going to be 1/16. So here is a representation of 1/16 of a sheet of paper. So let me unfold the paper now that I got those crease marks. And this is going to be a smaller tick mark line now. Again, I'm going to go about half of the length of the marks that I made for the 1/8 scale. when I do this, give me 1 second and I'll show you in just a minute as I'm sitting here writing and doing all of these. Again, you want to make all of these that are on the 16th the same line. So, all right, so here is my 1/16 line and the size of that 1/16. So that you know and are aware of it. Now let me kind of replicate. You guys go ahead and mark that on the board while I do this, or on your sheet while I do this up on the board. Again, I'm splitting each of these 1/8 spaces in half. So now I'm getting 1/16 spaces. Okay. There. Now I have 16 equally spaced divisions of that inch, and I can count these off. So here's going to be 1/16. 2/16, again, we don't say 2/16, that reduces to 1/8. 3/16, 4/16, which reduces to 1/4. 5/16, 6/16, which is 3/8. 7/16, 8/16, which is just another form of saying 1/2, but we always reduce. This one will be 9/16, 10/16, which is 5/8, 11/16, 12/16, which is 3/4, 13/16, 14/16, which becomes 7/8, 15/16, so, and then 16/16, which becomes 1. So we now have representation on your sheet of paper of the 16 divisions, or what we call a 1/16 scale, there on your sheet of paper. So I'm real quick going ahead and filling this out on mine. I'll show you in just a second as we go through. So, here you go. This is what your paper should look like now. So you've got 1/16. So you get this end of the paper, this edge over here represents 0. This one represents 1. So together we would have 1 whole inch. But each of these tick marks then are the divisions. And for the Intro to Industrial Tech class, we want you to be able to read a ruler or tape measure down to 1/16 of an inch. So it's just simply a matter of, first off, we got to see how many total divisions of it do we have. In this case, it's 16 divisions of the inch, and then we just count those off. So let's go ahead. I'm going to fold this back over because for this class, we only go down to 16ths, but in other woodworking classes, we could fold this in half again, and that would be a 32nd. Then we could take that 32nd and fold that in half again, and that becomes a 64th. And we're getting smaller and smaller. Our precision is increasing, our accuracy is getting closer to a target, and we can do more fine, precise work based on reading our inch scale down to a smaller and smaller fraction. So bear that in mind. Now, a couple of things. Hopefully you've kind of recognized things like this. Our scales, what we call our scale, we actually have 4 scales here. We have a half scale. We've got a quarter scale. So this is the half scale here, that tick mark that's that length. We got the quarter scale right here. So we got an 1/8 scale right here. And then we have the 16th scale. So we actually really kind of have 4 scales on this particular measuring device. So, and if I sit there and think about it, depending on what you're measuring, once you learn how to really read this, you can start to pick up on some clues here and say, okay, well, my measurement is 26 1/4. So, well, I know that at 26 1/4, I can look at the second longest line if I have that type of measuring tool. The second longest line helps me to read and tune in real quick to what that is. If it's an eighth, well, that's like the third longest line. So I can clue into all of these plus that to know where that size is. So, of course, if it's a 16th, then we've got 16 divisions, and you're counting all of the smallest ones on there as you go. But that's a quick way to help you keep in track. Again, though, if you get confused, if you're not sure what you're actually reading, I always tell students, whenever you're looking at a new measuring tool, first count the number of tick marks between the inch. So count the tick marks and an inch. So that's going to let you know how many divisions you have. So again, I'm going to start here at 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I know that I have 16 divisions in the inch. So don't forget, you start at 0. This is going to be a first one, and you always got to count the last one. So sometimes some people will count and say, well, I only have 15 divisions of an inch. No, you really have 16. Another way you can do it. So you got to have that right. And then once you know that, that will tell you what's going to be in the denominator. You can go back and say, okay, well, now my measurement actually comes here, so now I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sixteenths, and I know 6 sixteenths. I will reduce that to 3/8. So keep that in mind. Here's a couple of other clues for you, just so you know. On this fraction of the inch, your denominator is only going to have, it's going to have a 2, a 4, an 8, a 16, a 32, or a 64. Those are the only fractions in the denominators, the only denominators in those fractions that we're going to have. So we don't have any oddball type things like 3/5 or 22/42, nothing like that. It's either going to be a 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, or 64. So, and in our case, it's only going to go down to 16. So that will always make you aware of what you have and makes it a little easier with these fractions. Now, on the other hand, let's say if I have something like 14/16. Here's a quick way to know, do I need to reduce this? So if you have an even number in the numerator, then you need to reduce it. So if it's an odd number, if it's an odd number like 13/16, that's odd. So that's reduced as low as I can go. Here on 14/16, that's even, so I got to reduce it. This is where your different fractions or what the least common denominator is and so forth, to sit there and try to figure that out. Keep it simple. You can always divide by 2. So if I divide here by 2, I get 7/8. All right. Now I've reduced, and I am at the lowest form. I got a 7 in the numerator. I can stop. Let's try one more here. Let's try something like, let's say, well, let's go 8/16. So, all right. I have a even number in the numerator, so I have to divide by 2. So if I divide both numbers, both the numerator and the denominator, by 2, I get 4/8. Do I still have a even number in the numerator? Yes, so I have to do it again. So one more time. Let's divide both the numerator by 2 and the denominator by 2. I will end up with 2/4. Even number or odd number in the numerator? I still have an even number. I got to do it one more time. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I got the fraction 1/2. Do I have a even or an odd number? I have an odd number in the numerator, so I can stop right there. And that's kind of just a real quick way for you to remember, hey, if I've got an odd number in the numerator, then I'm good. I don't need to reduce. But if I have a even number in the numerator, then I got to keep going and I have to reduce that farther and farther. So that's our little lesson today on breaking this down into an inch. So keeping in mind, we just folded this paper in half and half and half. So we got to the scale and the divisions of the inch that we were looking for. So keep that in mind. This is the same thing that you're looking at on your ruler when we go out in the shop and start to take our measurements. So if you have any questions, send me an email.